Absolute power corrupts absolutely, but absolute powerlessness does the same. It's
okay,
not
I'm joined with national multi-award winning, the Shakespeare of hip hop himself, Akala. Akala.
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
Can't complain.
So Akala, tell us what you've been up to.
Generally, I just come back from India, and I'm prepping a new EP. I've just been at the studio writing some features as well. I'm featuring on a couple of songs coming up, and I'm prepping for this tour. I've got a tour of England. I'm not going to call it a UK tour because it's all dates in England. So quite rightly, people in Scotland, Ireland and Wales will be like, well, that's not a UK tour. So yeah.
Well, you just said that you went to India, much respect. Tell us about that experience and what happened.
I actually went twice recently. I went about end of October to shoot a documentary called Edunsin, collaborating with an Indian writer and singer and musician called Piyush Mishra. That documentary is online, so you can watch that. And then I went back again recently to tour. I had some shows, two in Mumbai. One was a hip-hop Shakespeare show, one was an Akala show. One in Delhi, one in Pune, one in Bangalore. The Pune one was a festival called NH7, that was amazing. And just the general experience of India, particularly Mumbai, I really, really enjoyed. I really loved it.
Alright. How did they take to you as a UK lyricist, like when you were performing?
I think you'd be surprised by just how strong the love for the music just generally is. And so there was a great reaction, particularly at the festival show at NH7. People were really on it. I was shocked that much more people than I realised also knew my music, which was a pleasant surprise. And especially after because the documentary I did went out on a really big TV channel over there. So once the documentary went out, I'd be walking down the street and people would be like, oh, I saw you on TV on Sunday, how you doing? And that kind of vibe. But yeah, so yeah, the reaction was...
There was no controlling them. When I was in school, she said, no, you never fought for freedom. No, we freed you, and you were on your knees pleading. And what's more, did you know that we kind of saved you from the barbarism of Africa? You should be grateful when enough of our own people can't be bothered to read.
Knowledge is power. This is the name of your mixtape that you had out in May. And you make points in this mixtape, and you even talk to schools and using some of your lines from your mixtape about awareness and how people should be aware and people need more knowledge. But how would you like people to act on what you tell them? What knowledge would you want them to take with them and actually act out?
Well, I suppose that's up to each individual. I'm only trying to inspire people the way that music that I love growing up inspired me. So I wouldn't tell people specifically, you need to do what I say. You got to figure out what your own kind of path is. But I would say, as long as people are open-minded and are studying, it's about making study cool, about understanding that people who are trying to keep us away from knowledge are trying to keep us control. If people control us with knowledge, they don't control us with money. They don't control us with guns so much. Those things are used sometimes. But really it's knowledge that keeps some people subjugated and others in the positions they're in. So it's really about just encouraging people to seek knowledge.
Justify him, so I must keep lying about the history of Africa, so I can live with the massacres and repeat my mantra. Muslim terrorist, so I can sleep at night as bombs take flight. Eyes open wide, but I'm blind to the sight. Too busy chasing the perfect life, and the working class keep them uneducated.
But then don't you think people like being told what to do rather than actually do something themselves? Like people kind of wait for a solution for all these things that you talk about rather than actually going out to do something about it?
No, I think people do things. I think throughout history people have often tried to change the situation or the status quo or whatever else, but human society is complicated and nothing's ever simple. But I don't believe that people are totally apathetic. Yeah, some people are. But as a general rule, I think people just feel lost and they feel helpless. They look at the state of the world and they're like, well, what can I possibly do to change that? But I think even that is a bit, which is a position, is how I used to feel, but it's quite an egocentric position. The idea that I'm so important, I can change the world. No, you can do your little bit. And if you inspire the people around you and you can touch as many people as possible and inspire them to think differently, then you've done your bit. But you're not a prophet. You're not going to come and save the world.
Saying this, can you tell us about the Hip Hop Shakespeare Company and how that came about?
Yeah, so the Hip Hop Shakespeare Company is a music theatre production and educational company aimed at exploring and using as a source of inspiration the works of William Shakespeare and the works of modern hip hop. It came about because I was just frustrated at the way both hip hop and Shakespeare were marketed. I didn't feel either of the marketing of either of these art forms was accurate. And so we just tried to kind of do something that looks at how could Shakespeare and hip hop be presented on a stage in the 21st century? How can these things be taught? How can a school curriculum stop making English literature a boring subject and give it some life and some musicality?
That's great. That's amazing. So, in your lyrics, you talk about all the propaganda that occurs here in the UK, and I want to know what you actually like about London. What do you love about London?
One of the main things I like about London, there's many things, but one of the main things is the fact that it is, you know, the world in one city. I know it's a cliche thing to say, but it really is. Like traveling around the world and going to so many places. It's cool to have a city where there's just one type of people. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking that. But I'm saying having a city like London where you have people from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from India, from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Cyprus, from Somalia, and I've grown up with people from all of those places. If you're remotely open, you know, should inform you a little bit about the world. And so I think in that sense, that's one of the many things that make London a great place to live. Of course it has its problems like anywhere else, but that's one of the main things that I like about London.
If you could live anywhere else in the world except within the UK, where would you live?
I haven't reached a conclusion on that yet. There's a few places I've been that I've wanted to, that I could see myself living, but there isn't one place yet.
And who would you like to work with, dead or alive, poetically and artistically?
In order: Bob Marley, Jimi Hendrix, Lauryn Hill.
And nothing's been, you haven't spoken to Lauryn Hill about anything?
No.
Well, you just want that to just appear out of nowhere.
No, I mean,
organically.
Listen, if it did, it would be an honour, but I'm not. It's not something I'm holding my breath for. But she is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest artists of our time.
Truly educated men could never be a racist. Educate is to draw out what is within.
If you could get a tattoo of a couple of bars or lines from a poem, lyric, proverb, or anything, what would you get and why?
I would probably get "Know Thyself," which is a proverb that's usually attributed to Socrates, but it doesn't originate with Socrates. It was something that was above the temple doors in a lot of the temple schools in ancient Egypt, and I would get that because I believe self-knowledge is the most important thing.
And I judge everybody else by the colour of the skin or the size of their wealth. But it's not good for my health, is the only one I ever really judge is myself.
I don't know. What do I do in playtime? It's kind of... I think I played my hardest years when I was far too young. My mum always used to warn me, if you go out raving this much when you're young, when you're older, you're not going to want to be bothered, you're going to be an old man before your time. As much as I hate to admit, I'm not saying I never go out. I do go out sometimes. But I lived in Ayia for 9 months because I opened a restaurant out there when I was 18. And so I played relatively hard when I was out there, as you do. I raved a lot even through my teenage years. I remember going to Pure Silk New Year's Eve 1999. And if you know when I was born, you know how old that makes me then. So nowadays, being honest with you, as much as it probably makes me sound like an old fart, me and the man them, because my brethren are even older than I am, most of them, 5, 6, 7 years older. On a Friday night, we might, get some green tea going, get the books out, talk about philosophy. We rave every now and then, but as a general rule, I'm a quiet kind of function amongst friends. Go out for dinner, cool, relatively quiet music. I'll go out and watch a band, but as for partying hard, yeah, I don't know. That's like that's a couple times a year for me. That's effort now. Like all that loud music.
You got it out of your system.
Huh?
You got it out of your system.
Yeah. I overdid it.
I push the parameter, can you imagine? If I was sicker than average, killing with character. Benjamin Banneker, look at the marriage, stamina damage, away from Metallica. Got to look for the whole of the calendar. So cold that I roll in the challenger. Why you man roll with the amateurs? I'm too much harder.
One time there was a lick party in Birmingham, and me and loads of my friends went, and we decided it'd be a good idea after the dance. We were a little bit drunk, you see, to park our cars. There was, I don't know how many different cars came in the convoy, but across the road, so that no one could drive in either direction, and play music really loudly and try and start a street party. And anyone who knows Birmingham's a bit rough, right? So when I look back now, I think this could have not panned out too well. A couple of people could have got pissed off and it could have got really ugly. Luckily it caught on and people just joined in the street party for the next couple of hours after the lick party, and it was great. What's going on, people? This is Akala and you're watching the Guestlist Network.
Around a genocidal abuse, I swear humanity ain't nothing but a virus with shoes. Then I pick my nephew up from school and I look at the youths and see the love they show each other, and I'm just so confused.